Welcome to the Rob Bro Show. I am Rob Bro. I'm the host. You are the co-host. You can co-host today by commenting on the Starting Line chat line. Starting Line chat line brought to you by Starting Line Counseling. StartingLineCounseling.com for more information. Free 15-minute consultation, by the way, if you go to the website or live and in person. Gunner, Texas. All right. Texas Tech baseball sweeping over the weekend. I do want to get into that in depth. I want to talk about the RPI. I want to talk about Don Williams dunking on me after I tweeted about canceling games. But just really quickly, there was a spring game over the weekend. My overreaction is if a spring game happens indoors and no fans see it, did it happen? Yes, it happened. Do we know anything beyond the highlights? And I'm not saying that the journalists, Don Williams, Chris Lovell, those guys that were there are sunshine pumpers. I'm just saying when you're covering a game, you talk about the highlights, offensive and defensively. There was a pick six, which could be construed as a negative for the offense. Will Hammond threw one to Chief Collins. But you're not like missed block there on third down, leading to a missed 3rd and 5. There's not a lot of that going on. So since we didn't get to watch every play, I can't comment on it. I just can't. But it happened, and spring football happened, and now I'm excited for fall camp.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much where you have to leave it. Like, we know nothing about what happened other than what got told by, or you see on the tech, social medias of what happened on Saturday because of weather and all those things. They didn't make the trip to Midland for the actual spring game. So they just practiced indoors and did what they did and made it happen, made it work. And listen, we talked about it last week. I'm not a big spring game proponent. Like, I don't care about the spring game because it's a glorified just inter squad scrimmage where they're not gonna, there's not a whole lot to it. But yeah, you can learn some things about some kids, I guess, but you're not gonna learn who your best players are in a spring game. And obviously, with your starting quarterback out, your starting running back was out. Your best recruit that you've ever gotten, the highest rated recruit that you've ever gotten in school history, didn't even perform in spring practice at all. So, it's one of those deals where, yeah, you can be excited after a spring game. I think everybody's been excited since signing day, to be honest with you, about what's to come in the fall. So, yeah, I like that you get to be able to have spring practices for new guys like a Will Hammond, like a Brown, those guys like that to learn the offense, figure out who their teammates are, get a rapport with your teammates, all of those things, and then get ready for fall camp. So that's what spring is good for. That's why you do it. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of other benefits to a spring game. I watched Michigan spring game, and it was for a little while and it was on Fox, and it just kind of was, like, who cares? They have two quarterbacks that are fighting for a starting job, and Alex Orji, and I can't remember what the other kid's name is. Warren, I think, is his last name, and they looked okay, but they didn't do anything to win a starting job if you watch that game. So
Tucker Lowrance in the audience says, "Why so blue, boys?" I didn't even notice we were all wearing blue.
I didn't either. Yeah.
I was thinking we were down in the dumps, not bringing the energy, but we're just wearing all blue.
Yeah.
Smurf and then
Day.
Jaden Daniels to Las Vegas. Is there some chatter there? That Vegas.
Where's Las Vegas at in the draft? What pick are they?
Well, originally, Daniels to
Washington.
No,
not Washington.
England at 3.
Yeah, New England. Yeah, that's right.
Caleb Williams
at Chicago.
1. Vegas, Daniels. It'll be interesting. Let's jump forward. The Red Raiders, the Lady Raiders also picked up commit over the weekend or this morning. This from Seeing Scarlet. First team junior college All-American point guard Ivana Krajana transfers to Texas Tech. They say this is Sing Scarlet again. The super sophomore, now rising junior class for the Lady Raiders gets one more talented member in the form of Odessa College 5'11" point guard Ivana. In addition to earning first team All-American honor, she led Odessa to its first NJCAA appearance in 5 years and was named Player of the Year in the Western Junior College Athletic Conference. In JUCO, she averaged 18 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, and 2.5 steals per game. The thought is, she's not going to, be a game changer per se, or start even potentially, but just as a team who didn't have a point guard last year, basically, to get this one and go after another one is really important. And if she's your second point guard, you're twice as good at point guard as you were last year for the Lady Raiders.
Yeah.
So, if you want to know more information about Ivana or Lady Raiders recruiting, go to Seeing Scarlet, their Twitter feed at Seeing Scarlet, or their website now. And I believe that is seeing-scarlet.com. -, whatever you want to call it. Marshall Owens says, silly question anyway for me to listen to the show aside from Twitter like a podcast. We are live on YouTube as well. You can watch the replay on YouTube. At one point there was a podcast edition that you could do through YouTube, but I don't know if that's still working. I haven't looked at it in a while, but you can listen on YouTube. You can watch on YouTube. All right. Blazing through all of that, we get to what we want to talk about, West Virginia. And I told you, Carson, last week after the Arkansas game that Texas Tech pitching has been really good, even in the losses. And I stand by that. The pitching was really good this weekend. Focusing on starting pitching and the front end of this bullpen, it is good enough to win in the Big 12. You just kind of have to have the offense to go along with it, and you did this weekend. You had enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the pitching. I would say the pitching is what might have gotten you beat a little bit at Arkansas in 2 games.
Well, for what I said weekend.
Okay.
Front end.
Okay. Fair enough. Front end. Okay.
At Arkansas, that was the back end of the bullpen on the midweek.
Okay. Monday or Tuesday. The Tuesday game was some of your front end guys that allowed.
Not the guy that gave up 7. Not the guy.
Anyway, not the guy that gave up 7. You're right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Weekend pitching.
Yeah. Weekend pitching's been okay. It's been inconsistent up and down.
When?
But the last couple weekends, you're right. The last couple weekends have been great. I think you've pitched. I think you've thrown the ball very well in the last few weekends. I wouldn't go. I mean, yeah, I guess against TCU even you threw the ball well. You just didn't score any runs. But yeah, this we talked about it. This is a huge weekend. It would be huge to get a sweep. Obviously, you needed a win, a series win. You get a big sweep. That's a massive sweep to get it home against West Virginia. It's a great time to figure out your best weekend to play some good baseball, especially leading into the latter half of the season. Yeah, I thought you pitched it well. For all the people that are wanting to fire Matt Gardner and get rid of the pitching staff and all these things, it's going to be tough to do that if they continue to pitch like this down the stretch here for sure. And if they pitch like this in a regional, you get yourself into a regional, you pitch good like this, you've got a chance to win the regional, get into a super, and then see what happens, right? Because really to win a regional, you need 3 good outings. You need 3 good outings to go win a regional. And if they can do that with the pitching that they have right now, the way it's set up, I think that Texas Tech has a chance. It's the best I've felt all year about where you're at as far as where you're at on the bump. Offense is going to come and go. It just happens. It's baseball. Like, some nights you're going to score runs, some nights you're not. Just how it works. Ask Texas. I mean, they beat Texas Tech like a stepchild on a Friday night, and then they can't score runs on a Saturday, and then you end up winning a game on a Sunday against the Red Raiders, where both teams are scoring runs, and Texas just figured out a way to score more. So baseball is what it is offensively, but yeah, the pitching is where you're going to win and lose games here late in the season and in the postseason. But if you pitch it like this, you got a really good chance. Really good chance. And West Virginia is a good baseball team, by the way.
Yeah, and if you're hitting like this,
yeah,
especially in the first two games, the final game you kind of just hung on and survived, but really good. And Ryan Free has been a revelation.
Yeah,
he doesn't look like just an opener or some reliever that's filling in. He looks like a Friday night guy. And then you have Mac Hewer, who has been electric. Probably your third best starter right now, just eye test. And then Kyle Robinson has gotten out of a lot of jams. He's kind of played with fire, but had dominant stretches in every start where he just shuts them down for 3 innings. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I thought we had the bases loaded in the first 2 innings and gave up 1 run. And now all of a sudden it's, 4-1 in the 6th. And Kyle Robinson's like the only guy that I can remember in the Tadlock era where Tadlock just lets him throw 110 pitches a week.
Yeah, because I mean, here's the thing about Kyle Robinson. He throws that heavy sinker, and when that thing's on, like, you can let a dude like that get into a little bit of trouble because he's a 1 pitch away, ground ball away from getting an inning-ending double play and getting back onto the bench. Like, he's different in the fact that Tim trusts him a ton. This is his first full year of being in the rotation. We saw a glimpse of how good this kid can be last year in the Gainesville Regional. And Kyle, for the most part, has been pretty good this year. I mean, look, the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, take Justin Verlander, for instance. He is going to throw really well most days, and then he's going to have a bad start here and there. Like, it just happens, right? You're not going to be perfect throughout the season. Kyle's been through that. We've seen him at his very best this year. We've seen him at his good, where he's good. We've seen him where he's great. We've seen him where he's not so good. But I think Kyle Robinson is figuring out that sinker is lethal, especially with the way you can throw it with guys on base. He's not worried to compete in the zone as much as he was early in the year. Just don't dance around hitters. Like, that's why you can allow him to throw those pitches because – I don't know that there's a whole lot of high stress on Kyle Robinson's pitches, right? Like,
right.
He's a big, long guy. He's a guy that you can stretch out more because he's been a starter for so long. So yeah, I don't have a problem with Kyle Robinson throwing 110, 130 pitches in a game. No.
When you have, you can see arm angle and if you're throwing a bunch of sliders and you're whipping that elbow and you have a weird release point, you can kind of tell, okay, that guy's not going to throw 110 pitches today. But Kyle Robinson has such a natural movement and isn't throwing, nasty.
It's just arm side run.
He's not throwing nasty slurves. I mean, he's not getting crazy in the game. So and again, it's trust. And I don't know that he's more trusted than anyone else. I'm trying to think back. Maybe Brandon Birdsell pitched over 100 pitches a bit.
Yeah, Birdie probably did. Yeah.
It always seems like, maybe this is just my memory, but it always seems like Tim Tadlock errs on the side of pulling early.
Yeah.
It just seems to be the opposite of Kyle Robinson, which I love. because especially if Kyle Robinson's pitching Friday or Saturday, which he pitched the third game this time, but it saves the bullpen. You only needed 3 pitchers because he throws 7 innings, 117 pitches.
Right. And we saw this with a guy like a Davis Martin. He's the comp that I would go to for Kyle Robinson, because Davis threw a hard sinker, a heavy sinker, and you used to see Davis Martin go deep into baseball games with 110 to 125 pitches. I think he did it with Micah Dallas some that first year of Micah's career here at Texas Tech, and then Brandon Birdsell as well. And you're talking about 3 guys right there that are playing pro ball now. So pretty good company to be in if you're a Kyle Robinson type guy. And Kyle's got the makeup, he's got the body, he's got the everything a major league scout wants. The arm side run, the sink. It's just it's what gets guys out that works. And Kyle Robinson, as long as he stays and competes in the zone, he's usually gonna fine. Now when the ball kind of flattens out, he doesn't get that arm side run, he doesn't get the tilt to the breaker. That's when Kyle Robinson gets in trouble, when he doesn't compete in the zone. But you get Kyle Robinson to compete in the zone, you're going to have a good day. Like, that's just how it's going to happen. So
you had 7 relievers pitch over the weekend, Carson. How many gave up runs?
Oh man, I'm trying to think now. 3 of them gave up. 2 of them gave up runs. 1 gave up. Okay, who
and
did?
It was
Who gave
arguably Parker Hutera. Arguably
Hutera,
your best reliever
Yeah.
over the last 3 weeks is the one that
Yeah.
gave up 2 runs. You had Brendan Lysick, who has been really good lately all of a sudden.
Nice to see it too. We talked about that before the year. Brendan Lysick was going to have to be an arm that comes out of the bullpen, especially out of the left side.
Jacob Rogers, who's been really good lately.
Another guy with great stuff.
Again, maybe that Arkansas series. And then Hudson Luce, who's kind of come out of nowhere, pitched some innings. I believe he is one of the Arkansas guys that you didn't really trust there in Fayetteville. But again, that was the number 1 team in the country. And then
not anymore. A&M is now.
Zach Erdman. Zach Erdman, who has been a
Zach
really
Erdman
good starter
came in
in
and
the midweek.
shut the door yesterday.
He's been a great starter in the midweek, but he's been pretty electric as a bullpen.
Another nice option to have left-handed out of the bullpen right there.
I'm telling you, and this is without, 3 bullpen arms or starters that you thought you would heavily rely on coming into the season, and Tabor Fast and Zane Petty and Trendon Parrish, who are all out and probably will be out to the rest of the season. I think Don Williams updated their status earlier in the week. By the way, we'll talk about Don Williams in a second. But just a really good series. It was a really good series. And across the rest of the Big 12, everything kind of worked out how you wanted it to. You want Oklahoma State to probably win that series. Kansas State took that series.
You wanted TCU to beat Texas in that series too. By
Texas
the way,
took that series against TCU. But otherwise, there's one team with more wins than you in the Big 12, and they're still under schedule. That's Oklahoma. There are 3 teams with a better winning percentage than you besides Oklahoma. But they're just a series behind you. If they lose that series, they'll be tied in record. If they get swept, they'll be behind you. You're right there, man. You're right there. And if you get into a position, like let's say you sweep Kansas and you're legitimately in a position back at the top of the conference, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And if you sweep, let's say if you sweep Kansas and Oklahoma your next 2 series, again, unlikely, but let's just say it happens. You might have to wait around the final weekend to see if you win the Big 12 or not because you're not playing. Everybody else is.
right? Yeah, that's your off week.
But let's get to the actual schedule. The Red Raiders will play New Mexico on Tuesday, Kansas on the weekend. Then they'll play UTRGV the following midweek, and then Oklahoma at home. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are both top 25 RPI. Oklahoma State at 25, Oklahoma at 22. Kansas at 83 in the RPI, which is credible. Not incredible, but credible for a weekend series. Do you want to venture a guess, Carson, at the other two midweeks there and where their RPI lays?
UTRGV in New Mexico?
Yeah.
Very, very low.
220 plus.
Yeah. And by the way, this is a UTRGV team that Texas got beat by last weekend or last Tuesday.
Yes.
The first time UTRGV beat the University of Texas in Austin since like 1968.
They have a winning record. They're 19 and 17.
They were
a good team.
UTRGV was UT Pan American when the last time they beat Texas.
And did you see what happened in their game with TCU?
I did not.
Mysteriously rained out.
I can get you a rain out. Now at Danlaw Field, I can't get you one, but and UTRGV has a great ballpark too, by the way. One of my favorites that I played in when I was playing indie ball down there in Edinburgh, Texas. Really nice ballpark.
So this New Mexico game and the UTRGV game, and then you have an off week before you play Oklahoma State. Off week. You don't have a midweek in that week. And then the final weekend you play Arizona State twice and UNLV. And that is a Thursday, Friday with a Friday doubleheader between UNLV and Arizona State. And that might be so that's in Tempe. I wonder if Arizona State and UNLV will play an early game on Friday, and then you'll play UNLV, and then you'll play Arizona State. It seems like
I would assume it's like a round robin type deal.
Because it's 3 p.m. and then 8:30.
Right.
So surely there's a 12 o'clock game in there too. No, but it's 1 p.m. local.
Yeah.
It's 1 p.m. local. Surely they're not getting a game in at.
No, I think they just are turning the field around between then and because Arizona State, having not played a game that day, most likely will probably play or take BP and do all that stuff.
One way to find
before
out
their game.
We can go to the Arizona State baseball schedule. Anyways, the RPI, Carson. Arizona State, a decent enough RPI. But the RPI, if this is according to Warren Nolan, okay, if you sweep every non-conference left, that is New Mexico, UTRGV, UNLV, and Arizona State twice. That's 5 games. If you win those 5 games, Carson, and then you, in some kind of combination, sweep a Big 12 series, lose a Big 12 series, and win a Big 12 series. And I think they had it as sweep Kansas, win 2 against Oklahoma, and lose 2 against Oklahoma State. Do you know what the RPI would finish at for Texas Tech, according to Warren Nolan?
20s?
17.
Oh, that's nice. That's a lot better than I thought.
And if you look at the top half of the RPI, Carson, just geographically, A&M, Arkansas, Kentucky, Clemson, Florida State, Tennessee, North Carolina, East Carolina, Wake Forest, I'm skipping Indiana State, Georgia, UC Santa Barbara, which doesn't fit the pattern, Coastal Carolina, South Carolina, Oregon State at 15, Virginia at 16. That's the top 16 right now. And then the next kind of group, Dallas Baptist, Vanderbilt, Nebraska, Alabama, that's the top 20. Now, beyond 3 of those schools in Nebraska, UC Santa Barbara, and Indiana State, what do all those geographically have in common?
Say that again.
What are the sorry. Taking you to school here.
Yeah.
Besides the ones not in the Southeast, what do the rest have in common geographically?
They're in the SEC or what?
The SEC, ACC,
Yeah.
they're all in that circle.
Right.
You're not going to have 16 hosts
No.
in the
same circle.
bottom
Yeah.
right region of the country.
Right. Right.
And to me, that bodes really well for a team like Oregon State, for a team like Dallas Baptist.
Yeah, Oregon State's getting a host. Yeah.
For a team like Dallas Baptist, and for a team like Texas Tech. And obviously the 2 Oklahoma schools are in that as well. But if you had to pick a host at the end of the season between, I don't know, West Virginia or UCF and Texas Tech, they're probably going to go with the team that's not around every other team that's hosting.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Good news for Texas Tech.
I mean, and for Texas Tech, it comes down to how well do you play at Oklahoma State? Because look, if Oklahoma State takes 2 of 3 from you, Oklahoma State's probably going to host. They've got a really good shot at hosting this Oklahoma State. Now, this loss at Kansas State doesn't help the Pokes any moving forward. They need Kansas State to keep on winning. Kansas State is very good at home. Don't get me wrong. They're very good in Manhattan, not very good on the road. And so that's what's hurt Kansas State this year. Oklahoma State's really good at break. So it's going to be tough for Texas Tech to go in there in the final, conference weekend of the season and take 2 of 3 from the Cowboys. But we'll see. I think that'll be a big series for both teams because it'll give them a chance if Texas Tech holds serve till then, obviously, with Kansas and Oklahoma coming. The good news is you get Oklahoma in Lubbock. Kansas is tough in Lawrence, but I think that you're a better baseball team, obviously. So you should go in there. I don't know about sweep, but you can take 2 of 3. It's the same Kansas team that swept TCU or that beat TCU 2 out of 3 earlier in the season.
Right.
So it's not a terrible Kansas baseball team by any stretch. It's not like, when Kansas was terrible in football where you just go to Lawrence and you win automatically. But, so it's 3 difficult series to end the regular season here in the Big 12 slate. So still a lot in front of them. But, yeah, if they can sweep Kansas, win 2 out of 3 against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, they have a chance to and if they're at the top of those Big 12 standings, they've got a chance to see if they can be in the top 16 for sure. I think that it's a possibility.
Oklahoma State still has BYU at home, Texas in Austin, Texas Tech at home, Houston in Houston. Just for what it's worth. The predicted RPI on Warren Nolan has Oklahoma State finishing at 39th, which seems low. They have Oklahoma finishing at 23rd and Texas Tech finishing at 25th. They've actually, since yesterday, updated even what I was talking about. They now having you lose 1 in Kansas and lose Oklahoma State series and win the Oklahoma series and lose 1 to Arizona State, which is probably more accurate. But that still finishes you with the top 25 RPI. And even with the strict RPI, because it's so Southeast focused, if you finish in the top 25 RPI, you can host. It's not
Yeah.
crazy to
Well,
say.
and this is how big that sweep of West Virginia is. D1 baseball had them as a number 16 seed, as the 16th seed and a host a week ago.
Yeah.
Like that's how big that sweep of West Virginia is. D1 baseball in their rankings and their projections had West Virginia as the number 16 seeded team in the tournament, um, of the 16 hosts to go. And so for you to beat a host team, and they had Texas Tech as a 3 seed, by the way. And the let me see, I can't remember where it was now. In the Winston Salem region, which is Wake Forest. It'd be Wake Forest, UC Irvine, Texas Tech, Fresno State. So for you to sweep, that at least puts you on a 2 line right now against a good West Virginia team. And now if you can win the rest of your series, find a sweep somewhere in the last 3 series, I think you can boost yourself up to a host site. It's going to be a long shot, but you could still do it.
Yeah, I think right now you're
That's an
tracking as a 2
That might
seed.
be an overreaction Monday, but you could possibly
Oh,
host a regional.
certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly it is. But I have seen the line. I've seen the path. Now you have to go out and do it.
Yeah,
But I
that's
think you're certainly
easier said than done.
tracking. I think you're certainly tracking with 2 more Big 12 series victories, and again a bunch of midweek wins. Those 4 or 5 midweek wins. Like if you give the most conservative prediction here, right? You beat Kansas on the road, that's doable. That's likely. You beat Oklahoma at home, that's doable, that's likely. They're really good on the road, but I think that's attainable. And let's say you
Yeah.
lose in Stillwater for the first time in 9 attempts, 10 attempts. That's also, you know, likely, let's say. And then you split with Arizona State. That's still a top 25 RPI.
Yeah. And
You're,
and
that means to me it's not an overreaction to say that you could host because you could likely do better than that.
well, and then you look at Baseball America's projections, and they have both Oklahoma and Oklahoma State as host sites. So, I mean, these guys aren't just throwing crap out, obviously. But
Big 12 is
so
back.
if
Baby.
Texas Tech can, if you can go back in and you can, take 2 of 3 at Kansas, tough place, sweep Oklahoma at home, and then go take 2 of 3 at Oklahoma State, and then obviously hold serve your last weekend in the desert in Arizona. I'm telling you, you might speak that into existence there, Rob. But you got a lot of work to do. You
A
can't
lot of work.
stub your toe against the New Mexicos. You can't stub your toe against UTRGV, just because that just kills your RPI even more. Playing the games kills your RPI, but losing those games would make it even worse. So you've got to hold serve in the 2 midweeks that you have left. But yeah, as of right now, I think you have pretty much you hold your destiny in your hands, and you can dictate what happens in the postseason. Like right now, if Texas Tech ends up winning 2 of their last 3 series, they lose the series to Oklahoma State, say, and they beat Kansas 2 of 3, they beat Oklahoma 2 of 3, and they lose to Oklahoma at Oklahoma State 2 out of 3. Then I think you're looking at a 2 seed, maybe a 3, but you're getting in a regional. If
I
you go and
think
get swept at Kansas, if you get beat by Oklahoma at home, if you get swept at Oklahoma State, then things start to get a little dicey. You
yeah,
can't struggle down the stretch.
yeah, if you get swept 3 times, you're back in the conversation of not being in the tournament. I don't
But yeah,
think
if you get
that's
swept, yeah.
like what's more likely? You sweep 1 and win 1 or you get swept 3 times.
Well, I don't think you're going to get swept 3 times. I said lose the series, all 3 series, and get
Right, but
swept once.
I'm saying what's more likely? To me,
I mean,
sweeping and winning is more likely than getting
yeah,
swept.
sweeping and winning is more likely than getting swept all 3 times. Yeah, for sure.
By the way, Carson, speaking of 3 sweeps, do you know how many games in a row, Big 12 tournament otherwise, you've won in Stillwater?
No.
10.
You've won 10 games in a row in
You
Stillwater?
swept in Stillwater 3 straight series.
Wow.
And that's going back. So you skipped the 2020 series in Oklahoma State. So
Right.
that's 2022, 18, and 16. You've not lost in Stillwater since 2014.
Wow. Wow. That's
That's a stat.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
No.
Would not have guessed that one. But yeah, I mean, wow, that's 10 years. It's been 10 years since you lost in Stillwater. Are you
Going
talking
back to
about lost a
the
series in Stillwater or lost a
no,
game?
period.
So you didn't
pulling it
play.
up.
Oh, yeah, that's
Pulling it
true.
up right now.
Because if
All
you
right.
played, that's
I'll just
10
give you
years.
every
That'd
game.
be 4 series in Stillwater minus the 2020 season. So yeah,
I'll pull up every game. Last year, they beat you twice in Arlington. You beat them twice in Lubbock. 2 out of 3.
gotcha.
You swept them in 2022 at O'Brate. You beat them 2 out of
First season.
3 in Lubbock in 2021. You beat them 2 out of 3 in 2019. You swept them in Lubbock.
So you lost them in 2019 then in Stillwater.
Nope. That's a home series.
Oh,
In 2018, you beat them 3 times, 7-3, 14-6, 9-4.
wow.
In 2017, in Lubbock, they win the series. That's the last time they've beaten you in a series, period. 2016, you sweep them in Stillwater. 2015, they beat you in a series. And then
In
going
Lubbock.
back to Sunday, April 6th, 2014, they win a series in Stillwater by winning on Sunday. So the last time you got beat by Oklahoma State in Stillwater, Oklahoma was April 6, 2014.
Wow.
3-8.
Yeah, I never would have guessed that. That's crazy.
The last time they swept you in Stillwater was 2012.
And that was before Tim Tadlock got on campus, correct?
That might have been his first or second season. Did he start in 12?
Good
He
question.
had a couple seasons before he went to Omaha in 14.
That's right.
He might have started in 11, actually. The only thing weird here is
2012, he was a Texas Tech assistant.
Okay,
2013 was his first year as a head coach.
gotcha.
So he's never lost a series in Stillwater.
Well, in 14,
Except for that 2014 one.
except for his first one, yeah. Anyway,
23 personnel. That's Spencer Michael. They said what happened on Baseball Diamond 2012 holds no value to what will happen this season. That is a good point.
sure, but I think
What
3
happened on a
straight
Baseball
series-
Diamond last week doesn't matter on baseball, or doesn't holds no value to what happens this next weekend. So that's how crazy baseball is.
But I think 3 straight series over 10 years is pretty.
Yeah, it's a cool
indicative
stat.
of the two
Cool
programs.
stat for sure.
Okay, just really quickly because I know you need to get on moving.
Yeah, I got to skedaddle.
I tweeted yesterday that you should cancel 2 games. Everyone else is doing it. A&M, TCU, all the big boys. Florida State did it a couple years ago, just egregiously. A&M did it egregiously a couple of years ago. Canceling these midweeks that hurt you in the RPI. And I said, I've never advocated this, but It's time for Texas Tech baseball to cancel games against New Mexico and UTRGV. Zero benefit, only hurt, with an RPI at 28 today. Don Williams saw Rob's tweet, so I asked Tim Tadlock. He said, yeah, we won't be doing that. All the RPI stuff, everything you can think of as far as that goes, you play good baseball, it'll take care of itself. I haven't looked at any of that, but no, that's not something we want to get into the habit of doing, I don't think.
Other teams do it. That's what I would say. Last year, it was towards the end of the year. Texas A&M needed some good wins, and they canceled a series or a midweek with Sam Houston or somebody like that, and added a Oklahoma State or somebody, a bigger school and a better RPI on that Tuesday, or they just canceled the game altogether. And so, because it was going to hurt their RPI, Texas A&M, Jim Schlossnagle, the number one team in the country right now this year, did that so that they could have a chance to get into a regional. Because even if they played that game, if they would have played the game and won by 15 runs, it still hurts their RPI. And so I get scheduling midweeks, like I understand it. And Texas Tech has probably scheduled some of the toughest midweeks of anybody this year. But I don't know that you should go the route. It's one of those things where if you put them on the schedule, you still got to play them. Like you don't need to just get out of it because they stink. Their RPI doesn't help you. All of those things. Like it's good to play games too, but also if that's where we're going to go after it, then let's schedule Power 5 RPI teams in the midweek. Like let's go get Kentucky in a midweek.
You did Stanford and Arkansas.
Right, I know. And that's what I mean. Like you got to continue to do that in midweeks. Next year in the Big 12, let's go get a Big 12 team that is coming to, like, an Arizona or Utah or whoever that's coming to play, TCU on a weekend. Let's play them on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. They can go to TCU after that, get ready for that series on a Thursday, and make it a week worth their trip. Like the team that you're not going to play that year in a Big 12 series, it doesn't count as a Big 12 games, but it helps your RPI some.
Let me tell you this, Carson.
Like I could see that happening. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State have played non-conference games against each other.
You played
in midweeks before too.
You played
Oklahoma in a midweek last year in Amarillo.
I think you finished a couple of series with TCU when they first got into the Big 12. I think you played them in the midweek quite a bit.
And I'd love to see Dallas Baptist back on the midweek schedule as well.
Oh yeah, but where you are now, Carson, let me take you through it. If let's say you play New Mexico, okay, on Tuesday, that's fine.
Well, you're going to play them, yeah.
If you sweep Kansas, you have to cancel UTRGV because if you sweep Kansas, you are in a position to host.
Yeah,
you are in a position to host. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If I could only cancel one, and that's anyone is allowing me, I would cancel that UTRGV game and then continue, because on the road, I think it hurts less. So play UNLV and Arizona State and everything else. But I'm praying for rain because Tim Tadlock's not going to straight up cancel.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting rain on Tuesday.
Not this Tuesday. The
next Tuesday.
Look at the 10-day schedule. All right, Carson is going to bail. We're going to
78 and sunny. Your next chance of rain is the Wednesday following the next Tuesday, Robbie.
Well,
unfortunately,
we'll figure it out. I'll get something going. I'll talk to my people. They'll talk to the weather.
Let's get what are those planes that they put up in the air and they cloud seeders where they fly over clouds and then they spray this stuff into them and it rains. Yeah, let's get a little bit of that going.
We'll do some. We'll do some.
Get me a rain out. Yeah,
we'll discuss it.
Somehow sprinklers pop up at
Griffin Park. Tadlock, they would just play on Wednesday.
They would play. Yeah, they would do it. Yeah.
The sprinklers don't matter because it's all turf and it has drainage.
I know that's what I mean. Like you have to do it during the game.
Yeah. Just leave them stuck on. All right. That's all I got. Anything else?
No. We can talk more about the NFL draft stuff coming up later this week
Yes, that is
towards the
this
draft.
weekend. Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe
But
we
it
do
starts Friday. So
Thursday night.
is it Thursday night or Friday night?
I think the first round maybe Thursday. That's how it's been in the past.
Right.
First round Thursday night, second and
Yeah.
third round
Thursday, April
Friday
25th.
night.
Yeah. Yep. So
So
Thursday. So we could probably do a mock draft on Wednesday.
yeah, or a draft special on Thursday, one of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Whichever.
All right, we will talk about it then.
Peace.